Έχουμε την τιμή να έχουμε μαζί μας από την Ιρλανδία την κυρία Τζένιφερ Μακκένζι, η οποία είναι υπεύθυνη του Εθνικού Κέντρου Συμβουλευτικής στην Εκπαίδευση και υπεύθυνη του Εθνικού Κέντρου Euroguidance της Ιρλανδίας. Hi, Jennifer. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Και νομίζω ότι το κέντρο σας στην Ιρλανδία προσομοιάζει πολύ με το ΝΕΟΠΕΠ. Έχουμε κοινή αποστολή και κοινά χαρακτηριστικά, θα έλεγα, από μια πρώτη ανάγνωση που έκανα του κέντρου σας και από τη μακρά μας συνεργασία. Ευχαριστούμε που είσαι μαζί μας και παρακαλούμε, έχεις το βήμα, έχεις το λόγο για να μας αναπτύξεις το θέμα σου.
Thank you very much, Beatrice, and Kalamera to all of your colleagues. I'm delighted to be invited to speak with you today. And I'll just make sure I have my screen working. I'm delighted to be part of your conference. I'm very sad that I didn't get to travel to Greece to meet with you in person for this conference. I wish you all the very best of luck with your excellent conference over the next 2 days. So to explain about an example of what is happening in Ireland, I'm delighted to be able to explain to you a little bit about our centre and some policies in Ireland, refer to some information from the wider context from the international centres as well, and to introduce the idea of the development of competences in career skills in school and linking them to the real world, to employers. And then with the theme of your conference today, to look at, well, what are the contributions that employers can make to career guidance, but also what are the links that we need to make as guidance practitioners to employers. It's not just about us, it's not just about them, it's about how do we all work together. And I have some links at the end of the presentation, and I know you have the presentation to share with your colleagues. So all of the information I'm providing will be in the links at the end. Okay, so as you mentioned, Demetrius, NCGE hosts the Euroguidance Centre for Ireland in the context of our wider role and remit. So we are an agency of the Department of Education, so the Ministry of Education, and our role is to promote best practice in guidance counselling in schools, in general centres for education, and what we call further education and training settings, which is VET in other countries. We also advise on policies and strategies for the continuum of guidance in the context of lifelong learning. So we inform policy, we support practice, and then our key role then, which links to Euroguidance, is to promote and support the national and EU focus on guidance policy provision and practice. So we promote mobility as part of our role in hosting the Euroguidance Centre in Ireland. When we are thinking about guidance, whether it's in the education sector or the labour market sector, we have to always think about the context and the environment that we are working in. And sadly, as we are all aware, we are all living through a global pandemic. But what does this mean in reality for the wider economies and the environment we're working in? So in Ireland, in December of last year, 12 months ago, our unemployment rate was down to 4.8%. And that was down from 5.5% the previous year. So we were almost at what is technically called full employment. Anyone who could work was working. 12 months later, or in November of this year, when these statistics were completed, our unemployment rate, because of the pandemic, was at 21%. So we are now in a situation where people who were unemployed and those who have lost their jobs because of the pandemic, it is now at 21% of the working age population. And interestingly, the number for those in the 15 to 24-year-old age group the unemployment rate there is 47.3%. That's a huge number of people, young people who are out of work, who are not gaining skills. Maybe they're a part-time student and part-time working. So the skills that they would be developing in the workplace are not available to them at the moment. The older generations, I include us in all of that, many have lost their jobs by the end of November, but with the retail sector reopening in December, that is, that is changing. But we need to remember that in the context of employers who are facing the difficulties of the pandemic, this has implications for working with employers and supporting them to support us in career guidance. So it's important to remember what is happening. Our guidance system in Ireland mostly starts at the age of about 12 in our post-primary schools, our secondary schools, and works with everyone then in schools, in adult education, in vet, and in higher education. So the formal education system provides guidance throughout that system from about the age of 12 up to adults who are back in the education system or want to come back into education and training. So we need to think about, where do employers fit in if this is all in the education sector? Okay. I'm hoping you can all still hear me. Last year, in 2019, the Department of Education published a national report completed by an international organisation called Indicon, and it was an independent objective review report on career guidance in Ireland. And I have the link to the report at the end of the presentation for those of you who wish to have a look at it. It is in English, I'm afraid. We haven't had it translated into Greek. But some of the recommendations of this report recognise the vital importance of connecting career guidance in the education and training sector to the employment sector and engaging with enterprise and employers. The recommendations suggested that there needs to be a programme with the enterprise sector to highlight the benefits of enterprise of participating in career guidance. So it's important that employers and businesses understand how they can contribute to career guidance. We need to provide supports to employers to engage with career guidance. That normally main careers fairs that had been happening only in Dublin would happen regionally, Dublin being our capital, that they would happen regionally and be more specifically focused on what's happening in the region. So for example, in the west of Ireland, where there is a huge maritime, sorry, I think I can hear myself coming back. There's a maritime industry in the west. So what are the jobs and careers that are available there? They also suggested we need to look at widening the experience of work experience during the sector training courses, and also to provide an opportunity for schools to join together with businesses and create opportunities for collaboration and for sharing. Another key national document is our National Skills Strategy, which was published in 2016-2017, obviously pre-pandemic, but it also recognised the need to strengthen career guidance with the aid of employer engagement. So from a national policy perspective, there has been a focus on linking career guidance in education and training sector to the employment sector. So this is coming from a policy perspective at all stages. Interestingly, many of you may be aware of the report that was published by the OECD earlier on this year. This was a fascinating and really informative report called Dream Job, Career Aspirations and the Future of Work. Sorry. Interestingly, 15-year-olds in the countries that were surveyed for the OECD report in PISA all identified really a top 10 of career aspirations, which you will see there: doctors, teachers, lawyers, business managers, IT specialists, nurses, midwives, psychologists, police officers. But interestingly, even when you go through in the wider list within the report, there's very little recognition of VET, of manufacturing, of engineering, of art, of science. Where are all of these careers? And it was obvious from the report that 15-year-olds, when surveyed, were not aware of all the other types of careers that are available to them. And it's really, really important that in career guidance in schools, we start to inform students about all of the careers that are available to them. Interestingly, the report did suggest that engagement with the working world can lead to positive educational, economic, and social outcomes for young people, but we can't take that for granted. A study reported in this report suggested that where young people have access to career talks, it does generally impact on their career planning. So it has a really good and positive impact in relation to when, you know, they're surveyed at an older age to look at what have been their career achievements to date. And one of the best indicators of young people's capacity to understand and progress in the labour market is the extent to which their educational and occupational aspirations are aligned. So this is where a student genuinely learns about and understands what's involved in a career and knows what education they need to achieve in order to achieve that career and to make the decisions that are right for them in achieving that career. So by setting their realistic goals and their aspirational goals, it is possible to achieve them. So how do we do that? In Ireland, in the last number of years, we have introduced what we call the whole school guidance approach. This has come from a policy of the Department of Education, which recognises that the whole school is involved in supporting students to make their career plans. And in developing our whole school guidance framework, we put a picture to what does this look like. We try to explain what this looks like. In our whole school guidance framework, we talk about guidance for all, guidance for some, and guidance for a few, where every student in the school can access guidance. There is targeted work with specific groups, like, for example, 16-year-olds who go on work experience, or, you know, students from particular disadvantage. So there's extra work dedicated to them. And guidance for a few, which means each student gets an opportunity to meet with the guidance counsellor on a one-to-one basis to think through their experiences and their learning and make their own plans. But as part of this whole school approach, the guidance counsellor's role is also to engage with external agencies, with employers, with local businesses, see what is going on in their local community, link the school to what's happening in the local community, and make sure that the students have access to labour market information. As part of this approach, it is our aim that the students will develop competences or career management skills by looking at developing myself. So who am I? What's important to me? Developing my learning. What's important? What do I need to learn? How do I make effective choices and plan for exams? And developing my career path. How is it? What is it that I'm interested in? How can I get there? What are my aspirations? How can I align my learning with those aspirations? In developing my career path, then, we look at the students. We have introduced that the students from the age of 12 to the age of 18 would learn about career-related information and source the information appropriately, to learn how to look at information on websites and find the important information, not the inaccurate, the non-accurate information. That they would learn about the world of work and life roles, how to manage a family and a work, how does that work? Looking at managing their career development and decision making, so to start to learn about these type of issues. And then throughout the course of the 6 years, that they will have developed the personal qualities and skills to meet those career goals and aspirations, and develop those employability skills necessary for working with, for being in the workplace. But if you think that these skills are developed as part of being in a classroom, it's really important then that the students get an opportunity to develop these skills further in the real world. And this is where the employers come in. In Ireland, we have a programme called Transition Year, which is the year 4 of post-primary school, usually around the age of 16, where students who are completing the transition year get an opportunity to go on work experience in a career area of their choice. So they get to learn the skills in school and then try to apply them and learn more skills in the work experience context. And again, this is where we link to the employers. So to explain this context of how we can engage employers in career guidance, I looked at a supermarket chain in Ireland. I am sure that in Greece you have the equivalent of a national supermarket chain that has a supermarket in every town and city in your country. And you know, we know that there are international supermarket chains from Aldi and Lidl, for example, that are in all of our countries. But to take a supermarket chain in our local town that is part of a wider business, what are the jobs that are available there that you might not think about when you just do your shopping in the local supermarket? So there's warehouse operatives, sales and development, sales assistants, IT development and support. So at the head office, there's an IT system. So at the local centre, they can book, okay, we need this many more, you know, delivery of bread or this more meat or cheese. There needs to be drivers, there's managers, there's accountants, there's HR professionals, there are health and safety managers and human resources. So in the wide range of a supermarket, which is something we all have in our local town, there are so many careers within that supermarket. How do we as guidance counsellors encourage our students to consider that working in a supermarket chain might be something they could do with an accounting degree, might be something that they could do because they know how to drive. They could be a driver. They could then move from driver to stock management. Maybe within the organisation, they have training within the organisation. So somebody could move from a warehouse operative or a retail sales assistant into management. Can they do a degree at night while they are working on the shop floor? Is there a graduate program for this supermarket chain, for example? So when we look at when we're doing our shopping and we see somebody on the checkout, and we may be saying to our students, oh yes, but we think that, you know, you would be interested in a degree in law, or you want to be an accountant, or you want to do health and safety. Maybe it is in a supermarket chain that they would be working eventually. So we have to widen out our ideas about careers that are there. What could this employer offer to career guidance in schools? Just thinking of a supermarket chain. So they could provide careers talks in the local school about the different types of jobs in their organisation. Maybe the local IT company, maybe the local doctor's surgery. Look at what's behind the services in our local communities. In those career talks, can they provide an explanation about the job? What training is needed to start the job? What upskilling is available in the job? Can this happen as part of a national or regional career exhibition? And I know in Ireland now, all of the careers and education fairs are all online, just like this conference. So there is a possibility somebody from Thessaloniki could speak at a career fair in Athens and vice versa. There are opportunities now. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we now have opportunities to bring more careers exhibitions online. Is there an opportunity for for work experience from school or your local vet college or your local training centre in your local community that you may not have thought about before? Are there opportunities for work shadowing? Is there a chance to discuss this with your local employers or business groups? In Ireland, we have what's called the Chamber of Commerce. I'm sure there is something which is the equivalent in your areas, where you have the local businesses who talk to each other. Can career guidance talk to them and start building up these opportunities? When I mentioned that the students make the 15 to 24-year-old group are the higher level of those unemployed at the moment, they don't have an opportunity for part-time work because of the pandemic. But is this something that career guidance can actually look at in the long term? For example, in the tourism industry, what skills can your students learn in the tourism industry working in local hotels and restaurants during the summer seasons? What skills can they learn there that will actually inform their career decisions into the future? So for us to think of all of these issues. And also in Ireland, we pilot things. We come up with ideas, we try something out. If it works, great, we'll do it again. If it doesn't work, we have a review and an evaluation to show why it hasn't worked. So think of local projects, pilot them, try them out and see what happens. One such example, we currently have a pilot project working in post-primary schools in 16 schools in Ireland. And remember, we are much smaller in Ireland than Greece. So 16 is a representative group of rural schools, of urban schools, of disadvantaged schools and not disadvantaged schools in that 16. So as I mentioned, in transition year, every student has an opportunity to go on a work experience placement in a local business or a local industry. The difficulty can be for some students is if their families do not have a connection to industry, to businesses, to professional roles. If their families do not have that experience, they do not have that those connections. If they're from migrant backgrounds, their families are not going to have those connections. So we needed to find a way to link businesses with students that has nothing to do with just the family connection, which is very important and a vital part of careers, but to provide the opportunity for equality of access. We have a pilot running at the moment, which connects businesses and schools through an app on a phone where the student can log in and look at what they're interested in, and the businesses are linked through a private company to say, yes, this is what we do, and here's the sort of work experience we can offer to students, and this is our area, or we can do this nationally. So it is through the use of technology that we can link schools to businesses. It is very much a partnership pilot. So it's in partnership with an IT company, with employers' representatives, with businesses and other national education support agencies. So we're not doing this by ourselves. We're very much doing this as part of a wider group. We hope, so the pilot started in October. Even now with COVID, the schools are open. Some of the businesses cannot have people into their premises for their work experience. But many of them are getting an opportunity to start it online for now, and they may be able to physically go into the school, to the businesses after April, hopefully, or maybe in the summertime if it can continue. So it is a partnership activity, and we will hope to report on it soon. Another example, where this is a government-supported project. It's called the PTEC Pilot Project, and it's in Dublin's North Inner City. And Dublin's North Inner City is one of the most disadvantaged areas of Ireland, not just the capital city. And in many cases, the young people growing up and living in this area were not accessing opportunities. We're not continuing on to third level education or apprenticeships or VET. And from a government project perspective, as a result of a report, they felt it was important to look at, well, how can we support these young people to work in the industries that are based literally in that area, but in the same area you have a disadvantaged residential area and you have a very highly innovative financial services area literally across the street. So it's a very diverse part of the country. And this project, called the PTEC project, was developed by IBM, the computer company, in New York. It was a pilot project in New York that rolled out then in different parts of America and has worked very well. IBM approached the Irish government and they worked together, and now we have very large industries. So IBM being the computer company, Cisco being another company, Virgin Media being a giant kind of media company, Irish Water and Irish Life being a health and insurance company, supported by government departments, which brings third level modules and work experience placements into the second level schooling. And it provides an opportunity for the students to develop their experience in these organizations. They gain highly relevant workplace skills such as collaboration, communication, as well as working with the professionals and developing technical skills. So while this was not set up specifically as a career guidance project, it has a career guidance role. So it may not have the name guidance, but it has a guidance impact. So there are opportunities for other areas to input into and support career guidance. So as I finish up, I suppose the key messages that I would suggest are that when we are looking at career guidance in schools, it has to be informed by regional or national policy. So it is important that the school guidance counsellor or the training centre or the VET college or the VET centre, that the guidance there is supported by national policy, by international policy. And I know Vuli mentioned earlier on about Euroguidance. And Dimitris was talking earlier about quality. So all of these areas have to inform the delivery of guidance at school and training centre and college level. Informed by research and good practice, by looking at national and labour market information, and then inviting collaboration and partnership with employers. We can't do this by ourselves as a guidance community, but we can absolutely do this as a partnership with local employers, with national employers, and realistically, for us in the guidance world, to learn by trying, to give it a go, to see what is actually possible, to try out the ideas, to talk about the ideas and test out the ideas and see how we get on. And if it works, do it again, share the information regionally, share the information nationally, and share the information across Euroguidance. And for Euroguidance to equally share information about our experiences for you in Greece to see what else is happening. So, as I mentioned, I have provided links on the presentation. There's a couple of pages of links. And essentially, if you, I know the presentation will be available, but I can answer any questions that are sent to me through the email address there, ncgeinfo@ncge.ie, or go to our website and all the information that we have in Ireland is available there. So I'd like to thank you all. Efcharisto, thank you for inviting me. Gura Mahagiv, and good luck with the rest of your conference. Thank you very much.